Hey artists, what if I told you a simple 6x10 grid could help you draw faces faster, better, and more accurately than ever? I tested it on real faces and what I found was both surprising and kind of fascinating. So grab your pencil, the training begins. So what is the 6x10 grid for front faces that I use? Well, here it is. It's basically a grid system that I use so I can place the features of a face really quickly. Once you get used to using the grid, eventually you just won't need it because this map will be in your memory. So each of these lines has a purpose. This will be the hairline, okay? This line will represent the eyebrow line. This line will represent the bottom of the nose line. And this line will represent the bottom of the chin. Bottom of chin. So that's basically all it's for, and then these two lines of course are the width of the face, and this top area here, which is 1/3 the size of this square, represents the top of the skull. Remember, this is the hairline, so this is the top of the skull. And this is a very adaptable grid because this is an average face that is 6 units by 10 units tall. But there are lots of faces that are, you know, a little bit bigger than 6x10 width, and some that are even smaller. Of course, there's a natural range of width to height faces out there. So this is a really nice grid because it's very adaptable. And you can create your own characters and change things as you need. But as a good average standard for drawing faces, if you draw 3 equal sections and then add 1/3 on top, you're going to get a good face every time. Okay, so that's the grid. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to draw out a grid. This is what we're doing, a 6x10 grid, and I'm using inches as my unit of measure. So I'm going to start 2 inches over. Now this is an 11x17 sheet here, but don't worry if you don't have 11x17. I've got some examples for regular 8.5x11 paper, so we'll get to that in a minute. But I just want to take a minute and draw out this grid here. So we're going to make each square 3 inches. Okay, and I'm starting 2 inches in from the side of the page here. 3 inches, 3 inches. Okay. And I don't know if you can hear, there's bagpipes outside, so I had to shut the window. There's a school not too far from here. And they decided to practice their bagpipes, I guess. I'm not sure why. But hopefully it won't cause us too much problems. All right. So there we go. Now we're going to need 10 inches from the bottom here. So maybe I'll start it trying to figure out how much room we have here. Okay, I'll start at 2 inches from the bottom here. And here we go. Now when you do this grid for yourself, you don't really need to use a ruler and measure everything out, but I'm doing this just to show you for accuracy's sake, and then you'll have a solid, you know, you'll be confident that this works because I'm doing it fairly accurately. But when I'm just drawing for myself, I just scribble out a grid that's close to 6x10, and it works really well because I've done it so many times, and it'll work for you too. And I'll show you ways to do it from memory so you can make these accurately without measuring, okay? But I just want to do this once to show you, because I'm going to prove to you why this works and why I like it so much for front faces. And it's adaptable for 3/4 faces and any other face. But now I know there's a lot of people out there that use the Loomis method and it's tried and true, but for me, I like using this method. I find it faster and easier, which would be the main reasons why I use it. It was also easier to teach how to draw faces too when I was teaching students, especially younger students, but it works good for every age. So yeah, that's why I use it, because it just works so good. Alright, so here we go. I've got a nice new grid, and let me do that. And now, so this is the center line of the face. You know, we're going to put the nose here. This is from the nose to the chin, from the eyebrows to the bottom of the nose, hairline to eyebrows, and top of the skull. So, top of head, hairline, eyebrow line, bottom of nose, and bottom of chin. There we go. And now I'm going to quickly put in the features, and I'm just going to use placeholders. I'm not going to do any detailed features. I'm just going to put in some placeholders, and here we go. Now, if this is the line for the eyebrows do start a little inside the width of the eye. So here's a shape I like to use for women's eyebrows, and I basically fill this in here, but I'm not going to do that now. We have the eyebrows, and then we're going to do the nose, and I like to do this shape here. I call it a modified M, and I find it shows everything we need for a nose. Now you can just use a simple triangle like this as a simpler, or you can do an inverted triangle like that, or you can just use the Disney circle. Okay, all of those are legit, and I've used them all, and I do use them all depending on how fast I want to get things done. But I want to do a little bit of a, well, not, I won't say detail, but I want you to see the features in here. Now, placing the eyes. Based on my measurements, eyes can come down sometimes to 1/3 of the distance from the eyebrow line down, 1/3 of this whole square here. These squares, by the way, are 3 inches by 3 inches, okay? But I don't find a lot of people the distance is a whole 1/3 down. Once you do that, you're getting into kind of almost cartoony manga style eyes. However, I will say, looking at pictures of Marilyn Monroe, her eyes were pretty far down from her eyebrows. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit between thirds and quarters. So if we find halfway, which is about here, and then halfway again, which would be a quarter, and that was 1/3, I'm going to put the bottom of the eyes right here, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to put the tear duct just inside the nostril. There's the nostril. The nostril would be here, and the tear duct will be right inside of it, like that, which I go through pretty detailed in my eye drawing videos. All right, and here we go. So I like this slanted parallel, is it a parallelogram, for my eyes, and I'm going to move, and this one's in way too much. I'm going to move it out here like that. That's better. And move that one over just a bit too. Okay, there we go. So now we've got the eyes in place, and you can draw in the irises. Remember, a portion of the top of the iris is usually covered by the top lid. And then we'll put in the mouth. And now I'm doing this drawing pretty slow actually, but as you're going to see later on in the video, I can crank out a face really quick. Now if we find halfway, you know, a lot of people will draw a mouth 1/3 of the way up, and that's probably pretty accurate. I just find halfway and then move the opening of the mouth above that. Okay, so and basically what I do is I just draw a flattened triangle. for the placeholder for the mouth. Okay, and so you can see the face is starting to fall in place really good. And then will create the jaw. Now, what you can do is you can find the opening of the mouth, okay, and use that as your guide for bringing the jaw in. So I'm going to say that the jaw is going to be this wide, okay, and bring that line in like this. Now that gives you a pretty square jaw. So if you want a little more finesse to it, start at the bottom of the nose and bring a line down to this line. Like that. Okay? So I just draw from the opening of the mouth, and then I come back up to the bottom of the nose and slant it in again. Alright, let's do the ears. They're really easy. The way I do them, I just start at the top of the eye. I come out whatever distance I want, and then I put a line into the bottom of the nose. I draw a quick number 5 in here for the fake details of the inside of the ear, and do the other ear, and I do a backwards 5 over here. Okay, so it's good enough for a placeholder. Now let's add in the top of the skull. Remember, this area is just 1/3 of one of these squares. So if these are 3 inches, the top part is 1 inch. And then the back of the skull is a bit wider than the front. Now, one thing I do want to say is, even though that this is a 6 by 10 grid, faces can range, the width of the face can range anywhere from about 55% to, I'm going to say, 68%. You might find 1 or 2 wider, you might find a few thinner, but the average that I've seen is actually 62% width to height. 62%. And I'm going to show you some examples on real people in just a bit. Okay, so let's finish this up. I'll put a neck on this person here, this drawing, and there we go. Now let's do the hairline. I'll do the sideburns. The hairline will come in a little bit about here and then come back out and then go to the hairline. So sideburns come in just over the eye a little bit. Remember, that's on the side, and then come up to the hairline. You could do a widow's peak, or you can just do it straight across, but this shape right here is, sometimes I'll just do a swoopy thing. Now I'm also drawing things pretty angular with straight lines geometrically, because I just find for laying stuff out I can do it quicker and more precisely like that. Though you're going to, you know, round things out and make them more natural when you do your detailed drawing. So draw your grid lightly, not as dark as I did here for the video, and make it very erasable. Place your features, and then you can do the details. Okay, so I think you can see that this thing works. Now the only other thing I didn't do was add in the width of the cheeks. Remember, I said that the faces can range from 55 to about 68%. Well, if you just use the 6 by 10, obviously that's 60%. So what you can do is you can add the cheekbone on the side of the face and add whatever kind of width you want, or you can just add more width to your grid, but we'll get to that. Okay, so there is how I use the 6 by 10 grid, okay, and I wanted to go through that real slow so it would make sense to you. So I thought I would do a quick inking of the sketch with the pen brush, just to show you what a typical grid face with basic placeholder features would look like. Here I'm doing my standard eyebrow shape that I like to do, and then we're adding the cheekbones and my favorite specialized M shape, and then the nostrils for the nose. And here I'm doing the flattened diamond for my placeholder mouth. And all these features you can massage and detail later on. And then my standard slanted rectangle, and there's my special 2-line iris that I like to put in, and then we added in the nose bridge, and I'm just making sure that I place that eye correctly. It's a little thicker than the first one, but oh well. I have a hard time drawing underneath my camera sometimes, getting my hands to work right, because sometimes I want to turn the page, but I know that would not be good for you guys watching. Anyway, there's my favorite little detail for the ears, the number 5 I call it. One's a backwards 5 and one's just a regular 5. And here I'm kind of slanting the cheeks in more than I would all the time, but if I want a slender face, that's how I do it. Right from the ears I start slanting it in, and then from the mouth opening I slant it in more. And then here I'm doing the neck and the shoulders. I always make sure the neck goes down inside the chest like that, and then I'm doing the outside of the and top of the head, and then making sure that the back of the skull is a bit wider. And now I'm putting in the hairline. And I didn't really put in the sideburns much on this one. Not everybody has a prominent sideburn, and sometimes just for cleanliness of the drawing I don't overlap the sideburn and over the ear area. And here I'm just putting in some quick lashes. There we go. And this is the hard part, because I really want to turn the page on this one, and I find it hard to push the pen instead of pulling. So there we go. And basically we've got most of it done. There we go.